Welcome back to another episode of the Catholic Buzz podcast. We're so happy that you're joining us again as we talk about various Catholic topics here together. My name is Father Daniele, and I'm always joined by Josh Sullivan.
Hello.
Over here, and the sweet little angel of the podcast. It's Matt Van Milligan.
Hello.
Matt, welcome to you.
Thank you for that.
And yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. And today, Josh is so excited because he's been wanting to do an episode on this topic for so long. Yeah. Today, we're finally doing it. We're talking about angels, right?
It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm just thinking about it. If Matt's the little angel on your right,
yes.
what does that make me? Anyways, no,
That's
angels. I'm so
funny.
excited about it because I think it's a thing that a lot of people don't realize. The Catholic Church actually teaches angels exist. Angels are real.
Sure.
It's not just a fairy legend or a myth. These are something that they are beings, spiritual beings that exist now and have purpose in our faith. And so, to be Catholic is to believe in angels.
Yeah. And maybe, we're just jumping right into the topic here, right?
Sorry. Yeah.
Because, that's good. Because before we go into what the church says about angels, because oftentimes I hear a lot, people like we just did for Matt, in a comical way, people call each other, "Oh, you're such an angel."
Yeah.
Or when someone passes away, they say, "Now they're an angel," or "That's my little angel watching over me," or whatever it might be. Yeah. That's not what we believe about angels.
Yeah.
We don't we are human beings. As much as we can attribute some of the characteristics that we think angels have to a human being, like you're behaving like such an angel, that might be okay, but when someone dies, they don't become an angel.
No.
Right?
No.
But you're right. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what the church teaches about angels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we believe, as well as what is just fact and what is myth, and then what is tradition, right? I mean, there are certain things. So, I mean, if we're going to get right into it, the Catechism of the Catholic Church has a whole section. I've printed off a bunch of pages here.
Whoa!
I know.
See,
I'm coming prepared.
For the topic. You came prepared.
I don't need to use the whole catechism, just this little page.
I've never seen this happen before. Yeah.
But there is. They talk. We go from 325 all the way to 350 something, right? 354.
That's the teachings on the angels in the Catechism. Yeah.
In the Catechism of the Church, and the one that specifically it talks about who they are, and it says. St. Augustine says that the angel is the name of their office, not their nature. If you seek the name of their nature, it's spirit. If you seek the name of their office, it's angel.
That's number what in the Catechism?
Number 329.
Wow.
And so from what they are, spirit, from what they do, angel. So their purpose, so that's why we don't call, because when you die, your soul goes to heaven, you are technically then spirit. You are of spirit, right? But it's what you actually do, or your nature of what they do, that makes you an angel.
An angel, yeah.
And so you are a human.
Yes.
And your soul, you're a human. In that sense, you're not an angel. But an angel is a being that, and there's, we were talking about earlier on, there's multiple different types of angels. There's not just one angel. We have people familiar with guardian angels.
Sure.
Or the archangels. We pray St. Michael, the archangel, asking for him to protect us, right? Or asking for God to send him to protect us. But there's other angels that we've experienced in the Bible, and there's actually apparently 9 choirs. Now again, so what the church actually teaches, angels exist.
Yes.
And that we know they exist, and we know that they've appeared in the Bible in human form. We have 3 different ones that appeared in the Bible in human form. St. Raphael or Raphael, depending on where you're from. Yeah, St. Raphael or Raphael, depending on where you're from. If you're from Cornwall area, it's Raphael, St. Raphael.
Sounds like a raffle, like you go buy a ticket.
But if you're... so you have St. Raphael, you have St. Michael, and then you have Gabriel, St. Gabriel. And so...
The archangels.
And the archangels. Yeah. And they talked about that the nature of what they do defines the angel itself. Whereas,
because the word angel means, and it is like you're saying, it describes what their function is. Angels are messengers, right? Mm-hmm. So angels that's their function. Yeah. Their function is to be a messenger of God to humanity or to whoever it might be. And archangels are messengers with a message of importance.
That's right.
That's what separates them from.
Yeah. It says here. So I mean, Now, this part is from Catholic Answers, but it's breaking it in. It's more tradition, and it's what theologians in the Catholic Church have talked about. So St. Thomas Aquinas and those types of things. It is not doctrine in the Church what we're talking about in angels. Angels exist, and there are angels there, and there are different types of angels. We know that. But the type that we're talking about now is more through tradition and through what Catholic scholars have said. And so we have the angels, and they're the ones that serve over guardians on the people.
Right.
And then you have the archangels, which deliver God's most important messages to mankind. And so that's the next step up of angel, if you want to think of it that way. And then you have the principalities, and they care for the earthly principalities, such as nations or cities. And so the choir of angels called principalities, those are the ones that are looking over Canada or looking over very specific areas or groups on earth. And then, so those are the ones that are involved with human affairs. Then we jump up to a next class, and the next class or the next area of angels has 3 choirs in it. The choirs of powers, and the powers, they confront and fight against evil forces opposed to God's plan. The virtues, whose name originally suggests power and strength, they implement the orders of dominion and govern over the heavenly bodies. So they're like the military police, if you will, over angels. They're the ones that go over angels.
They're the HR department of heaven.
That's right. That's what it sounds like.
The HR department, exactly. Yeah.
And then you have the dominions or the dominations. Those are the ones who invoke authority, and they govern over the lesser angels. So they're kind of in control of. And that's again through St. Thomas Aquinas. And
right, there's a hierarchy.
There's a hierarchy in angels, and and then from there, okay, that's the one, and those 3 choirs provide God's plan for the entire universe. And then we go into the next level of angels, which is the one closest to God, and they don't really have anything to do with humans per se or God's earthly role, but they talk about the thrones, and they symbolize divine justice and judicial power, contemplating God's power and justice. So they're the ones that are involved with that. The cherubims, which are full of wisdom, and that's basically, they talk about their wisdom and God's plan for his creatures. And then the seraphims, or the burning ones, are the most intense, flaming love of God. And they're kind of, in the tradition that we believe in, that they're the ones closest to God. They're the ones that are most involved with God in the sense of being there.
Yeah, and if any of these sound familiar to people listening today, it's because we often hear these terms in the Mass.
Yeah.
The seraphim and cherubim. We say, together with the seraphim of angels, the cherubim of angels, the throne, right in the Eucharistic prayer, the thrones or the preface of the Mass, I should say, the thrones and dominions, the powers of angels, all this stuff. We say that, and then but right before we say, holy Lord, God of hosts.
Yeah.
Not
realizing that you're saying, when you say powers and dominions and thrones.
Yeah, we're calling on the angels.
Those are classes of angels or choirs of angels. That's a very specific choir.
Yeah, and I remember, I don't know, Matt, maybe you can help us here. I don't know who said it, but I remember reading, it was a saint, I believe, that said, when you're at the Mass, you're not alone there.
Yeah.
In the building with you are the angels who are there present with you. And there's also a piece of art that has depicted the Mass being celebrated, and the priest down here and the people down here and the whole host of heavens is present. And so we call upon them during the Mass, right? That they're present with us. It's really beautiful. We don't think about that.
No.
Yeah, there was. I think that was part of our RCIA when we were talking about that you enter a different kind of temporal ordering or an ordering of time and space when you enter the Mass, and that there are a number of Renaissance depictions where you have a celebration of the Mass, and then above that is being opened up into the joining in a participation with the angels in glorifying God.
Yeah, the Mass where I have a priest friend who always says every single Mass, it's where heaven meets earth at the Mass. He always says that at the beginning of Mass.
Now, the other cool thing too, I think, is angels don't look like what people expect angels to look like, right? Mm-hmm. And so we expect them. When they have appeared to humans in the Bible, they appear as people. Right?
Yeah,
yes.
We don't even know that specifically. A lot of our attempts to depict that, or whenever you see it,
you're right.
That it's it comes as kind of an ethereal kind of version of a person, but there isn't a lot of there are instances in the Bible where angels are mistaken for people. So I guess that does kind of support that idea. But when they encounter the archangels, there's no real physical description of what they look like. So a lot of times, and what Father was saying, that's like we have this kind of culturally imbued idea of what angels are. And it's like, especially if you're interested in kind of Renaissance art, it's like angels are just Roman soldiers with wings and a halo sometimes. Or that you have the kind of Emperor's New Groove, that you have the
on either side of you,
on the one side, and the right and left, and that they're just having this kind of constant cosmic battle between good and evil. But when we take it into there's again a meme on the internet. There's like what angels look like in the Bible and what angels look like and so you have that kind of cartoonish depiction. It's like, but even if you look in the book of Revelation, they're covered in eyes. Like they're they're kind of these bizarre descriptions. And again, Revelation is written and intended to be read a certain way. That you don't necessarily just kind of take it at face value, because a lot of the imagery in Revelation is symbolic imagery
and meaning something.
So it's we need to kind of separate ourselves from the kind of the Bugs Bunny idea of angels to actually have a serious conversation about who they are, what their function is, kind of eschatologically, and in the whole kind of narrative. Because if you think about it, it's like that you could have a version of salvation history that doesn't include angels at all. That God could have created humanity directly. That you could move them out of it would have a different implications on the nature of justice, and then the fall of man was preceded by the fall of the angels, and that's significant, or that's important for us to kind of understand how angels and demons kind of interact and affect kind of the world as we understand it. But it is taking them out of the equation, or like imagining a scenario where they're removed from the equation. It does kind of bring your attention to what they actually do, or what they actually add to our understanding of faith.
And that's like you said that too. Angels and demons, right? So demons are fallen angels, and they've had that like we talk about. Angels have free will. So right from the Catechism, the existence of spiritual non-corporeal beings that sacred Scripture usually calls angels is a truth of faith. The witness of Scriptures is as clear as the unanimity. Thank you. That's why you're here. Of tradition.
And the only reason.
I have it written on my hand.
The word of the day.
But the idea. But we believe that they had free will and intelligence. Like they are beings that have intelligence and free will.
Yes.
And so, but that their free will, they had a choice, right? And they chose because their job they don't have bodies, and so because of that, their whole existence, their whole nature is in of themselves their job and everything, right? And so they have that decision to make at the beginning. Where does that come from? Do we know where is that through tradition? Is that through
that they have free will, or that
they had a choice?
Because
there's some mention of Saint Michael and all that stuff in the Bible, in Revelations.
But I think Revelation is our main kind of scriptural source for that narrative. The fall of the angels, taking with him a third of the stars from the sky, like a third of the
angels,
the heavenly host. That from that we can infer that angels have free will. What you were talking a little bit earlier about. That angels are, that there's no division between kind of their will and their nature, that they have a very specific nature, there's some kind of interesting kind of theological speculation that it was like, okay, if an angel chose to reject God, can they repent of that? Can they go back, or can they turn back? But I think citing that Thomistic idea that we get from Thomas Aquinas, that angels aren't a bunch of Roman citizens with wings, that they aren't just a bunch of people, that we think about people in terms of, or like the scientific term of like species and genus, that you have manifestations of a specific species. From Thomas Aquinas, we have the idea that angels are actually their own species. Each angel is
Its
a
own.
species unto itself.
Exactly.
And with that kind of categorical designation comes a very specific nature.
Yeah.
And I guess from there, kind of the Thomistic argument is that their will can't be separated from their nature. They can't go back, or they can't kind of renege on kind of specific acts of their will. So the idea that that their decision effectively formed in a concrete way their nature. So that they have free will, but not necessarily in the same way that
humans
we
have
do.
it.
We do. That's interesting. Yeah. So unlike us, who can go back and ask for forgiveness and turn around and be but angels don't have that same. They're not afforded that same
capacity. Yeah.
Well, interesting.
Yeah.
The Seraphim.
Yeah.
We were talking about the highest in the choirs. Now this is where Lucifer is.
It was a choir of angels. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the choir of angels, Seraphim, the ones that are closest to God.
Yeah.
That's where we believe that Lucifer was one of that choir.
Who chose
Yeah.
free will chose to go against go against God.
God's plan.
God's plan.
Whatever.
Can't go back on that now, right? And
But also doesn't want to.
Yeah.
doesn't want to.
Right? Like, and that, I think that's built right into the nature, is that there is no, oh, I wish I could, but I made a mistake. That's not in the nature of the angels that have chosen to go against God's plan. So they, yeah.
And again, this is an argument that's an inference from Thomas Aquinas'
Exactly.
characterization of angel, and it does constitute part of the tradition, but it's not necessarily. It doesn't need to be accepted dogmatically, or at
That's right.
this high
That's right.
level.
And when we talk about fallen angels, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about angels who have made the free will choice to turn their backs on God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same kind of idea, like, and demons, angels, fallen angels, demons and fallen angels, I think we're talking about the same thing there. People now, and the cool part about that is, just as angels aren't Roman soldiers with wings, demons aren't that way either, right?
No.
And so realizing that they aren't the pitchfork with the ears and the horns and the tail necessarily. That seraphim, like as a seraphim, Lucifer, I love the depiction, because we're just getting out of Easter and stuff. We watched The Passion of the Christ. And I was talking to my kids as we were watching The Passion of the Christ about how they depict the devil in that one. And they actually did it on purpose. They picked a woman to play the actor, but they recorded the voice of a man. Because, again, angels don't have a gender, right? And so... because of that, they took they took the beauty of a woman, and they put a voice of a man to give it a little bit of distortion. And then the way, like, if you're looking at it, if you take the music off and you take all that stuff, it could be a beautiful woman. Like, it was a beautiful being, the way that they depicted the devil, which I think turned people off. There's some creepy nature to it, but it was a beautiful being. And my boys are saying, "Oh, I didn't think the devil would be looking like." If you look at here, no, he was like, the devil was a seraphim. So, and we say him, but that's because we don't say it.
But that's in the very nature of the evil one as well.
That's right.
It presents as beautiful and
That's right.
enticing.
And then dysfunctional,
But is
and
really dysfunctional and distorts the beauty of things.
yeah.
Right?
This is a little aside again, but I looked into it because of that. Was during the crucifixion, during the Passion play, Jesus is getting scourged, and the devil is walking around with what looks to be a baby,
Yes.
and then turns around to be like a weird, ugly man.
Yeah.
Man baby. Yeah. Like, just really, really like, wow. What? And I was like, what is the symbolism behind that? But the symbolism was exactly that, was the distortion of taking something beautiful like a baby and pure, and then distorting it into, like, because when you first see it, you're like, oh, it's a baby. And then when it turns around and shows his face, it's like, oh, but that's what the devil does, right? Taking that and distorts it. So
Okay, so people at home are, practicing their faith. They love their faith. What do angels? Why are angels important to sort of the lay Catholics, sort of sitting in the pews? What is the importance to know about angels for them? And what do they do? What can they do to appreciate more the gifts that God has given through these species of? Species is that the right thing to say?
Yeah.
Angels,
Well, I think it's important to understand, because on a practical level, Well, we know that angels exist.
Yeah.
We know that angels have kind of specific agency in communicating and, supporting God's plan. So we can make appeal to that in prayer. So we talked in an early episode about guardian angels, that you can pray that your guardian angel protect you and guide you, and we have a specific prayer for that. Towards the end of Mass, we've been saying the Saint Michael prayer that was instituted by Pope
Leo. I think it's in
Pope Leo.
This is the one I was wrong about. This is
Pope Leo the 13th.
yes.
Yes.
I thought
Actually,
it was one of the Piuses.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because Pope Leo the 13th did initiate this, wrote this prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel, and mandated, I believe, that it was prayed at the end of every Mass. Correct? The practice fell apart where?
Yeah, I don't know how firmly it was established then, but if that continued for a number of years.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, I would just, and I'm just going to assume around Vatican II is when maybe the practice stopped. However, a couple of years ago, the Pope said that the St. Michael the Archangel prayer should be prayed at the end of Mass, which started people to say, like, why? Where's this tradition come from? And all these things. Some people remembered that from far ago, and some people said, well, that's kind of strange. And in our parish community here, on the feast of St. Michael the Archangel in 2020, we started the tradition of praying the prayer of St. Michael the Archangel. And I must say, I can recognize the spiritual fruits of our community praying for the protection of St. Michael the Archangel. I really can. Yeah. And people now, like, I encourage people, even before we start praying it as a community, to pray it every night before bed. Like, I pray it every night before bed.
Do you mind if I
just
interject
for it.
quickly? Because there's something really, really cool about the way that the St. Michael prayer is worded, that it's cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls.
Yeah.
That it's an appeal to St. Michael to cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits. That a lot of times, and again, addressing misconceptions about, like, how people view kind of the... there's a lot of people pit, like the God and the devil as these two opposing forces of good and evil that are, like, on par and, like, battling over, the history of humanity. That it's not. Satan is a created being
from God.
That it's not like that. God is above this dynamic,
Right. Yeah.
and that it's a much more appropriate way to put Saint Michael against Satan. And we talked. This is episodes ago about that God uses humility in kind of historically ironic ways. That it's fitting that God overcame Satan, one of the most powerful beings He's created.
Yeah.
Choir
number one. Yeah.
That it's that a humble handmaiden accepting God's plan for her life was the efficient means of effecting the salvation of the world.
Yeah.
That God uses Saint Michael, who is a lower
angel
rank of angels, as the effective means of purging Satan from the world.
Yeah.
And that God uses humility, that God uses a willingness to reconcile our will to His, to affect that salvation.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I think the fact that when you said, like, I think it's important for people to know that this happens. This is actually going on, and the church teaches that it is something that is going on. We have the physical world that we can see around us, but there's also a spiritual world. And so I don't know about you, but we've talked about spiritual warfare. There are times I really notice, it's really kind of funny, is when there are things that are going really, like, if my family all of a sudden, I know this growing up, my family all of a sudden really started just fighting with one another, and it was just a lot of unpeace in the home. I remember my mom just saying, okay, whoa, what is happening soon? for good. Like, what are we going to do as a family? What are we, and sometimes we put on retreats and some things, but like, yeah, next week was a retreat. Like, we're all fighting, bickering, and it's like, it is living in a hellhole sometimes. And it was my mom going, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's going on here? What's going to happen? Oh, in a week from now, we are putting on this big retreat. Some lives are going to, you know what? There's a spiritual warfare. Exactly. So we would just pray against spiritual warfare. Any kind of like, and again, we won't have to worry about it because God's got his team in place who are trying to ruin us, but they're in place. And so we just have to pray. Say, okay, God, you know what? We give it to you. You like you said, it's not a balanced scale. This is God with all his angels and stuff, and then a third of them dropped out, and they're over here. Like you know, this is not an even playing field that we have to worry about at all. And so, just giving it over and just saying, hey, if there's things that are bugging you or things that are, just give it over to God. Say, hey, no, God, take care of it. He has his messengers. He has his guys working in the background that can help help make his will happen. And I love it. Like the angel, like Jesus refers to it in the Bible and says, do you not think at this moment I can just snap my fingers and then the myriads of angels would come by and swipe everybody up? Like Jesus was calling upon that nature and that knowledge of angels, just like, hey, I could do this, but I'm not. So obviously, let it go. Let this happen. This is my will. This is God's will.
Would there be a particular place in the scriptures that either the description of angels or a story of an angel is maybe like stands out to you more? Because I know we were talking about the description of angels comes from Revelations, but like there are some, like you said, Jesus can call upon this.
Angels.
You know, and why I thought of that was because in the text that you provided for us, it did mention that in Eucharistic Prayer 1, in the Mass, when you use Eucharistic Prayer 1, the priest calls that the angel from heaven take this sacrifice up to like
altar on the.
It's so beautiful, but in the scriptures, it's full of really beautiful things like that too. Like, is there something that stands out for you?
If you go into it, so at the end of the catechism, so if you go into the catechism, it's right at 354. If you go into the catechism, look that up. They have a list of probably, I can't even count that real quick now, about 30 Bible references where it talks about saints.
Angels are mentioned.
Yeah, angels are mentioned, and maybe not always. Maybe it's Saint Augustine. I see some of there, Saint Francis of Assisi, and one. So it's not always Bible, but most of it is Bible.
Right.
So probably at least 20 and maybe 10 saints, saints that have written about angels. The one that I love though is that if you look at almost every time an angel appears to Mary, to whoever, it's peace be with you. Mm-hmm. And so if you're thinking about how angels look. Or how angels don't look. More like every time an angel appears to a human, peace. You're going to get freaked out. I know that. You're not used to this. Okay, peace be with you. You know, and that's. I don't know if there's a favorite story of mine. I mean, one of the people in Tobit is Saint Raphael, and a lot of people don't know about him as much as they know about Saint Gabriel, because we talk about that all, and Saint Michael, we say the prayer. But go look up Saint Raphael, see what he does, and how he directs people, and how he is the messenger of God in that situation. But yeah, peace be with you. Whenever that is being said, and then Jesus, again, in his fullness and glory, he talks to people after he's resurrected.
And he says the same thing.
He says that every time he appears, peace be with you. So you got to think that there's a spiritual side, like he's appearing now more in glory because he's conquered death at that time. He's given up the sacrifice, and every time. So now angels not are on par, but they're appearing in a similar light, if you will.
Yes.
That Jesus appears.
There's like a heavenly appearance or
That's
something.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. Like you talk about, like an angel appears to you. Regardless if they're attractive looking or not, or hideously looking, there's still this heavenly sort of glow about them. I mean, we would be frightened. Like, you just kind of walk around like, and you're startled, but I have picked up on that too. And we've talked about it here at church on Sundays when the readings come. That's the first thing out of their mouth usually is peace.
Whoa.
Or do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid. Yeah, exactly.
And then as much as you're picturing what they look like, could you picture what the face of the people who are seeing them look like? If the first thing that they have to say is "Don't be afraid," I'm
a friend. I'm a friend.
Exactly.
What would you say? But yeah.
Anything else that you want to add, Josh? About
no, that's it. I just want to kind of open the conversation up, Catholic Buzz style, allowing people to start talking about angels and demons. I think when we start getting into this, when you start reading into it, one of the things I have with teenagers that happens a lot when they start reading into this stuff, you don't have to be afraid. Never worry or be afraid. This is going on for sure, but it's been going on whether you knew about it or not. And God's got it in control. The devil wants to make you think, or the fallen angels want to make you think that he's got more power than he has. But as Matt, you were saying, the devil doesn't have power to create. Yeah. He only has the power to distort. So he can twist. So he can't take a truth. He can't create something, but he can take a truth and he can twist it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but you know the creator, you know the person that has ultimate power, and that person, that being, loves you so much and won't let another being, influence that. And so if you're scared, just say, hey, say Michael prayer, say the guardian angel prayer, and then pointing out guardian angel prayer again. I think I pointed out one time. Guardian angel prayer, the angels are above us. So guardian angel, I always thought growing up, angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love. I thought I was commanding my angel, but that's not the case. We're asking to light, to guard, to rule, and to guide.
Yeah.
And so the guiding, asking my guardian angel for advice, asking him to protect me, or thanking him for protecting me, I should say. But yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts there, Matt?
No.
Yeah, I just thought, how God has set forth the use of this being of angels, right? We talked about how some protect the heaven or protect the groups underneath them. We talked about the HR kind of angels, the archangels who protect us from evil. How God has given each of us a guardian angel. Like God has really set out for us a plan to be protected and guided by the angels in this heavenly realm. And it just sort of furthers the point that we are a heavenly people too. We're created by God, and we're called to go back there, to experience this in its fullness. That's the sort of the Christian vocation, right? Yeah. And oftentimes, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. We don't think of the angels because we don't see them, right? Or we also kind of misunderstand the angels.
Yeah, And if I were to add anything, it would maybe be that there's a reason that these things are veiled to us. Yes. That there can be kind of an unhealthy preoccupation or a need to understand what's going on in the spiritual realm. There's a reason why these aren't kind of directly manifest or apparent to us. But I think that there still is something we can do, or if we knew all that was happening in the spiritual realm. That what would we do? We would ask the angels for their help. Yeah. We would ask God to send angels as messengers, as spirits of wisdom, as to aid us on our spiritual journey. Yeah. That's our part, or that's the extent to which we can kind of engage with angels. That you don't want to fall down the road of becoming obsessed with the spiritual realms, or we talked on another episode that. You can kind of fixate on, this is happening, or trying to do kind of some, angels and demons cause and effect in what's happening in your life, which you have no real means to verify. So exactly, what's the import of that? What do you do with that? Yeah, ask for help.
Ask for help. Ask God. I think too. So if people are looking for some fiction with the angels in it, one of the good books that comes from a Christian bookstore. Pierced by the Darkness and This Present Darkness.
Frank Peretti.
Frank Peretti, yeah. They're great books they're completely fiction, and they're not necessarily written by a Catholic author. But they do show kind of a spiritual side to things that are happening in the real world. And it's cool. It's fictional. It is fictional.
Yeah.
But it's a good read, I'd say. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing as if you're coming at it from the perspective that this is fiction, or this isn't kind of an interesting idea of how this might be happening. Yeah. Then yeah,
it's a good read. I wish they would make a movie, and I know that they tried to make a movie on it because I geeked out about that. And but they tried to make a movie, and he didn't want to release the rights to having the producers create what an angel looked like. Oh. He wants to say, no, this is what I want you to stay true to the story. And because they wouldn't do that, they wanted to Hollywoodize it. He said no. So there's not been, to this day, a movie on those books. But there was a lot of attempt. And even now, in 2018, I think they tried again. So
Speaking of images, we'll share that picture that you
Yeah.
had circulated
Yeah, we'll throw it on
about what the dominions and thrones and
Biblically
Seraphim and
accurate.
Cherubim, the biblically accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll share that on our social media pages when after people have listened to this episode. So that's all the time we have today. Thanks for this topic. It
yeah,
was a
thank you for.
discussion.
I'm glad we got this talking.
Yeah, it was good. And if anyone has questions or things that they didn't understand, you can go through the Catechism of the Catholic Church, numbers 325 to 350. So just 25 short little explanations of the angels there in the Catechism of the Church. Or if you don't want to dust off your Catechism of the Church, send an email to Matt, the Catholic Buzz Podcast at gmail.com, and he'd be happy to give you some further direction. Okay? Thanks for joining us today. For Josh Sullivan and Matt Van Melgen, my name is Father Daniele, and we'll see you next time on the Catholic Buzz.